brutal truth about life that most people don't want to hear when you were in pain, when you were down, when you needed someone to stand beside you. Many stayed silent. They didn't just fail to help. They watched. Some even hoped you would fail. The instinct is to be noble, to forgive, to pull everyone up once you've built yourself back up. But here's the problem. If you rescue the people who stood by and did nothing, you teach them that their silence had no cost. When you think back to the moments that almost broke you, you'll remember more than the pain. You'll remember the faces. You'll remember the ones who were close enough to see your struggle, close enough to hear the cracks in your voice, close enough to notice that your eyes weren't shining the way they used to. And yet, they said nothing. They did nothing. They chose silence. Silence is not neutral. Silence is not harmless. It's a decision, a deliberate act of non-involvement. It is the moment someone weighs your worth against their comfort and chooses their comfort. When someone sees you drowning and decides not to throw the rope, they've made a statement without words. Your survival is not my concern. And that cuts deeper than any insult or direct attack, because you expected the enemy to be cruel, but you never expected the so-called friend to be absent. This is the part most people don't want to admit. Some of the people you loved the most were not just missing in action. They were witnesses. They had a front row seat to your suffering, and they chose to remain spectators instead of stepping in. Sometimes they told themselves a story about why they didn't act. It's not my place, or they wouldn't want my help, or I'm sure someone else will step in. But the truth is, real loyalty doesn't wait for the perfect opportunity. Real loyalty doesn't need a script or permission. It moves. It risks. It acts. Silence becomes a mask. It lets people pretend they're innocent when they're actually complicit. If someone is close enough to see your battle, and they still choose to watch rather than help, their silence is participation. It's easy for them to claim they didn't know what to do. But in life, doing something is almost always better than doing nothing. A single message, a simple gesture, a word of encouragement. These are not grand, impossible acts. They're human acts. And yet they chose not to offer even that. The danger is that later, when you've fought your way back and your wounds have healed, these same people will smile at you as if they were on your side the whole time. They'll congratulate you. They'll want to stand next to you in the light, pretending they were there in the dark. And unless you're paying attention, you'll let history rewrite itself. You'll forget how silent they were when your soul was screaming for help. You cannot afford that kind of forgetfulness. Memory is not about holding grudges, it's about protecting yourself from repetition. If someone could watch you suffer without lifting a hand, they've already revealed the limits of their loyalty. They've already told you what you mean to them when there's nothing in it for them. Believe them. The first time they chose silence, it was their choice. The second time, if you allow it, it's yours. This is where most people fail. They confuse kindness with access. They believe that in order to be good, they must keep the door open to everyone, even those who prove themselves unreliable. But the truth is, protecting yourself requires boundaries. And one of the clearest boundaries you can set is this: if you could watch me break without stepping in, you cannot be near me when I rebuild. There is a misconception that those who stay silent in your suffering simply didn't understand or didn't know how bad it was. But deep down, you know the difference between ignorance and avoidance. Ignorance is not knowing. Avoidance is knowing enough and choosing to stay uninvolved. One is human error, the other is human choice. The second one is what you need to remember. Think about how many times you've gone out of your way for people. How many times you showed up when it was inconvenient. How many times you offered help without being asked. How many times you felt someone's pain and refused to stand by and do nothing. That's who you are. Now compare that to how they responded when the roles were reversed. That contrast will tell you everything. The people who remain silent during your suffering are teaching you something, not about pain, but about perspective. They are showing you who they are when the stakes are real. They are showing you what they will and won't do when you are in need. And that knowledge is not something to ignore. It's something to act on. The truth is, you don't need to punish these people. You don't even need to confront them. What you need to do is decide where they fit in your life going forward. Maybe they no longer get access to your inner world. Maybe they're no longer invited into your plans, your wins, your losses. You don't have to make an announcement. You simply close the doors quietly and keep building without them. The most dangerous thing you can do is rewrite history in their favor because it feels easier than accepting their betrayal. It's tempting to pretend it didn't happen, to smooth over the discomfort, to tell yourself they would have helped if they could. But that's how cycles repeat. That's how the same people get the chance to fail you twice. Life is already full of challenges. You can't afford to surround yourself with people who see you as optional. Remember who was silent. Remember who looked away. Not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Because the people who stayed quiet while you were in pain will not suddenly find their voice when you face the next storm.